Anybody feel like they went from a wide receiver body to an O-lineman body this week? I suppose you would have had to have a wide receiver body first. Oh, crap. Welcome to another episode of Lombardi Time Brews. I am your host, John Delray. Today we are taking a look at Packers versus Eagles. Yes, the Sunday night football matchup occurring tomorrow night. Packers at Eagles. Yes, this game is in Philadelphia in prime time. So today I'm going to be talking about what the Eagles look like from the Packers' perspective. What are the key matchups to watch? How can the Packers even stand a chance at their measly 4-7 record going against the tall and mighty 9-1 Philadelphia Eagles? So let's dive right into it. First of all, thank you for joining me on this Saturday morning. I did alter the schedule just a wee bit given the Thanksgiving holiday. Hope all of you had an absolutely wonderful holiday. Hope you were able to spend time with family, loved ones, or have this holiday be whatever you needed over the last couple of days. Now, the Packers are coming off of a mini bye. We last saw them all the way back 10 days ago on that Thursday night game, the very, very frustrating game against the Tennessee Titans. And now they are back for Sunday night against Philly. So let's take a look at these Philadelphia Eagles. Who are they led by? What are some recent additions they've made? How do they rank in terms of all of these different things? And then what are the matchups to watch the most? In terms of future programming, I will be back tomorrow night. Yes, even late night, Sunday night. I will be putting out a reaction video late tomorrow night, so make sure you check out for that. All right, so who are they coached by? The Philadelphia Eagles are coached by Nick Sirianni. He's in his second year of coaching the Philadelphia Eagles. Overall, he has a cumulative 18-9 record. Last year, he did sneak them into the playoffs with one of the bottom seeds, and unfortunately, they did fall in the playoffs, but still, one coaching year, one coaching playoff appearance, and he darn near to closing in on that second playoff appearance already, given the Eagles' 9-1 record. How did they get to 9-1? Well, they've won every game they've had, except for one game. The Washington Commanders 2 weeks ago, when Philadelphia did a number of, let's say, non-typical things for how Philadelphia has played this year. And this is actually kind of a theme that I'm going to get to over the next few minutes. Philadelphia, they went roaring out to this 8-0 start. And they did so by doing a number of different things, one of which I think looms pretty large, as Mike Spofford pointed out on Packers.com. But then over the last 2 weeks, this team has changed a little. They're certainly not a bad football team. Of course not. They're 9-1. But all of a sudden, they're playing a little differently than we had seen in the first 8 games, and that does give a little glimmer. I mean, let's not push it, but like a little glimmer of hope for the Packers. But 9-1 this season. The last time that the Packers and Eagles met was actually in 2020. Aaron Jones went off for 130 yards on the ground. Aaron Rodgers had 295 yards passing. Overall, the Packers won that game 30-16. Now, I will say it was obviously a different coach since Sirianni is only in his second year coaching the Eagles. Matt LaFleur and Nick Sirianni have yet to face each other as head coaches. Now, who are these Philadelphia Eagles? Well, we know about the stars, right? I mean, they've got Jalen Hurts, who's in the MVP conversation. They've got A.J. Brown, who is just being everything he was ever supposed to be now that he's in Philly and reunited with one of his best friends, a Derek Carr, Devontae Adams situation with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. But beyond that, they have a remarkably deep group of weapons. I mean, you got Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell at the running back position. At tight end, yes, they did lose Dallas Goedert, who's currently on IR. Dallas Goedert will not be playing in this game, which is a big loss for the Philly offense. At wide receiver, you've got A.J. Brown, you've got Devonta Smith, you've got Quez Watkins. Like, there is talent all over the field for the Philadelphia Eagles, even with the loss of Dallas Goedert. But who are they truly led by? They're led by the best offensive line in the NFL. I'm going to talk about them briefly as I get to the Philly offense a little bit more. That offensive line is good. Philadelphia seems to be at its core a team a few years ago as it began its rebuild that understood you want to win football games, you better win in the trenches. Once you have the trenches settled, go out, get your weapons, get your high flyers, etc. But this team has built the trenches, and their recent additions show that pretty clearly. So you've got the best offensive line in football, and then what do? I mean, you're an 8-0 team at the trade deadline. You're the number one seed in the NFC right now, and you know what they just did? They didn't go sign a wide receiver. They're not in the OBJ conversation. They're not looking at other high-flying players. No, in the last couple of weeks, they have added, at the trade deadline, they added Robert Quinn, the edge player from Chicago. Then, over the last 2 weeks, they've signed 2 street free agent defensive tackles who certainly have pedigree more than street free agents, Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. So here you have the 9-1 Philadelphia Eagles, as it stands today, who is on the precipice of home field advantage. And what do they decide to shore up the most? The trenches, their defensive line. Quinn, Joseph, Suh. They are doubling down on it, and it's working for them for sure. Now, in terms of this game, Packers-Eagles, how big of an impact will Joseph and Suh have? Well, Linval Joseph last week played 26 snaps already against Indianapolis. Ndamukong Suh played 17. I mean, these guys, both street free agents, just came in just played. And their defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, talked about how it's the flexibility of the others around them, be it Fletcher Cox, Jonathan Hargrave, Brandon Graham. All of these guys, their flexibility, their willingness to do other things have allowed Suh and Joseph to come in, take simple concepts, and just play right away. I mean, they got over 40 combined snaps from Suh and Joseph in week 1 of having them on the roster. You have to know that we're going to see them more this week for sure. I mean, this is week 2 of them being in the system. But to be totally frank, whoever Philly decides to play along that front, they are immensely talented. I'm going to go over all of the names later. But they truly have 9 guys along their defensive front that they could put in on any given play and just destroy things. What Philadelphia has done from a roster building standpoint is truly impressive. So, how's this roster doing? Offensively, defensively? Well, offensively, we know they're good. we know they're good. Jalen Hurts is almost 500 yards rushing on the year. I want to say it's almost Buffalo-esque, right? I mean, Green Bay has gone through the gauntlet in terms of scheduling this year. They've played Buffalo. They've played Dallas. Well, to me, with what the numbers are shaking out to be, it looks very similar that Philly's offense is a lot like Buffalo's. You have a mobile quarterback who's an excellent runner, nearly 500 yards on the ground for Jalen Hurts. He is an absolute master at extending plays. You have a top-tier offensive line, and then you've got these weapons at wide receiver. Along with, at your running back situation, another similarity to Buffalo, you've got not just one guy. You've got a lead back in Miles Sanders, just like Buffalo does Devin Singletary. But there's other guys who fill other roles. Naeem Hines in Buffalo now, Kenneth Gainwell in Philly. You know, there's more to it than just the one guy. It's another similarity. So overall, Philly, they are 4th in the NFL in points per game. They put up 26.3 points per game. Rushing, they are the 6th. They rank 6th rushing the ball in the NFL. They get 142.5 yards per game. They are 12th in passing at 228 yards per game. But this is one of the things. This is what Mike Spofford pointed out on Packers.com. Turnovers. Through the first 8 games of the season when they were 8-0, they had 3 turnovers. 3 turnovers spread out amongst 8 games. Now in the last 2 games, they've had a grand total of 6. 4 against Washington, 2 against Indianapolis last week. So obviously a key to this game is the Packers continuing the turnover trend of Philadelphia. They have to get aggressive on that front, make Philadelphia make mistakes, just kind of like they did against Josh Allen in the second half of the Buffalo game. I think defensively, this needs to be played in a similar way, if not just a little bit more aggressive than what we saw against Buffalo. Now, defensively, yeah, this Philly defense is crazy good. They're 6th in the NFL at 18.3 points per game. Rushing, this is where they can be exploited. Very similarly to Dallas from a couple weeks ago. Dallas had an incredible pass rush. They were very good at ball hawking, but where could they be executed against? The run game. Well, Philadelphia ranks 19th in the NFL, giving up 122.2 yards on the ground, including 4.7 yards per carry. Their passing defense cannot be exploited. They've given up only 178.4 yards per game through the air. The Packers, for most of the season, did rank second in this category. However, Ryan Tannehill bucked them back a little bit. They now rank fourth. But the Philadelphia Eagles second in pass yards per game at 178.4. How are they doing in some of the sexy stats, let's call it? The sacks, the interceptions. Well, sacks, they've got 33 of them. That's good for third in the NFL. They get pressure just from their line. They don't need to call blitzes because their line is so freaking talented. Just like Tennessee last week. I mean, Green Bay is in a gauntlet of their schedule. But third in the NFL in total sacks. And the thing about it that's most impressive for Philadelphia is it's not like one guy has 15 and then a bunch of guys have 2 to get up to that 33 number. It is spread out. Multiple Philadelphia Eagles are contributing with multiple sacks. There is not one absolute like alpha type figure that's got 15 sacks and everyone else is along for the ride. This is everyone can get you at any time. The leader of that 33 sacks only has 7. So 26 sacks from other places. It's remarkable. In terms of interceptions, they've got 13 on the season, 6 of which are from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who happens to lead the NFL. So again, 10 games, 13 picks. They're going to try to get theirs. No doubt about it. So I've already talked about how this Philly team is kind of a perfect combination of everything that Green Bay has gone against already. You know, they can get pressure and picks like the Dallas defense. They only need to rush 4 from their defense, just like Tennessee, to still get those sacks. They can be exploited against in the run game, just like Dallas. Offensively, they're very similar to Buffalo, with a running quarterback, high-flying, fast options at wide receiver, and then a really good offensive line. And we know from those games what are some of the key matchups now. Well, number 1, the Packers defense needs to set the edge. To me, that is the number 1 matchup of Packers versus Eagles. You cannot allow Jalen Hurts to run all over you. You cannot allow him to extend plays. The wide receivers are too good for Jalen Hurts to be like prime Aaron Rodgers running around extending plays, having plays go on for 7, 8, 9 seconds until he can find a wide receiver. Not only that, but this offensive line is too good. They'll win that battle every time. So Preston Smith, coming off a very strong game for him, needs to set a strong edge. There's a world of pressure on the rookie Enigbare to set a strong edge. Devondre Campbell is doubtful for this game, meaning Quay Walker is probably still going to do the defensive calls. It also means that Quay Walker probably can't be utilized exclusively as a spy like I hoped for against Josh Allen. Now, I do think that Green Bay is going to have to continue to be exotic in its nature like they were at times against Buffalo. Quay Walker getting some blitz opportunities or some edge pass rushing opportunities. McDuffie, Barnes there in the middle to really shut down any run options. I think they're going to have to get exotic with their linebacker play, especially with Devondre Campbell, still more than likely not to play as he was doubtful. But setting the strong edge is going to be incredibly key against Philadelphia. And of course you want to do that. But Philadelphia's offensive line, so good at not allowing other teams to do it. Of their starting 5, The Philadelphia Eagles only have one player of that starting five who has given up more than one sack this season, and it's their left tackle, who also happens to be, per PFF, one of the highest graded tackles in the NFL. It's like, he's the only one that's given up more than one sack. For almost every single metric, this offensive line is number one in the NFL, and it's really not close. Green Bay will have difficulty setting the edge, but if they want to win this game, they have to. They have to keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket. Number 2 for me, where's the Green Bay secondary going to go? I don't think that Green Bay is going to employ a shadow. I don't think Jair Alexander is just going to follow around A.J. Brown, which probably against Philly for once is actually probably for the best, considering that Devonta Smith versus Rasul Douglas is not a good matchup for the Packers. Smith is the exact kind of receiver that Rasul has at times struggled against this year. So I don't want Jair and A.J. Brown and leaving Rasul there. We don't want that. And ultimately, what I think they will do is the defense that we saw run against Buffalo. Very zone heavy. Very allowing the secondary to keep their eyes on the quarterback. That's really, truly what I think we're going to see. Now, one thing that I will say, one person to look out for on the Philadelphia Eagles happens to be Quez Watkins. He doesn't play a ton. He's at about 20 targets on the year. But out of those 20 targets, he has 2 catches for over 50 yards on the year. He is fast. Not kind of fast. Not just NFL fast. He fast. And without Eric Stokes, who is your fastest player in the secondary, I don't love that matchup. And considering all the miscommunications and breakdowns in the secondary that we saw last week, going against Ryan Tannehill and a whole bunch of who at wide receiver, I don't like that speed going against this secondary and this zone coverage. Be wary of that. And the last matchup. What is the Green Bay ground game going to look like? Is this going to be Tennessee, where we just get like 15 carries, or earlier in the year when it was infuriating? Or is this going to be Dallas? Is Aaron Jones going to get 24 carries in this game? Is A.J. Dillon actually going to be utilized versus not? We know that for the Philly defense, the only way that you can exploit them is it's on the ground. Now, who all does Philly have on this defense? Listen to this. This is ridiculous. They've got Hassan Reddick at the edge, Brandon Graham on the edge. Now, Brandon Graham is PFF's highest graded defender for this Philly defense with a grade of over 90. That's elite. Over that, they've got Josh Sweat and Robert Quinn. That's just edge. That's a lot of talented edge. In terms of the defensive tackles, the interior defensive linemen, they're 5 deep. 5. Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, Fletcher Cox, Hargrave, and Jordan Davis. Now, Jordan Davis is not playing in this game. He's still finishing up his IR stint. But holy goodness. I mean, comp that to the Packers and their interior defensive line. Who do they got? Kenny Clark, who's kind of been off the last month. But they got Kenny Clark, who's of that tier of talent. Other than, like, Jerron Reed, not in that tier. Dean Lowry, not in that tier. TJ Slayton, not in that tier. Devontae Wyatt, who knows? We don't get to see him play. But, like, they're not that. This is insane. 5 defensive tackles that are that good is just markedly insane. Then you go to the Philadelphia secondary, and you've got the NFL leader in interceptions in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Then at corner, you got James Bradbury and Darius Slay. Darius Slay, of which said this week in his locker that he's really looking forward to adding an Aaron Rodgers ball to his Mount Rushmore of personal interceptions. I mean, in spite of all of this talent, we know that the Philadelphia defense is giving up 4.7 yards per carry. They're 19th in the league in rush. It's the only chance you got. Control the clock, run the ball. And not the run game we saw against Tennessee. I saw a whole lot of people saying, well, see, in the first half against Tennessee, they tried to run the ball, and it didn't work. Well, yeah, frankly, the Packers went back to a completely vanilla run game. It was not the same rushing attack that we saw against Dallas. What they did against Tennessee reverted right back to what we saw earlier in this year, which abandoned a bunch of the Matt LaFleur principles. So, yeah, that's what I don't. It's not just as simple as just run the ball. It's run the ball correctly. Execute it how your head coach wants to. How the philosophy of your entire offensive scheme says you want to. And that's not a knock on anyone, but the Packers have been wildly inconsistent in how they do that this year. So they got to get back to it. I want to see exactly what they did against Dallas. I think that's their best bet to win this game. Now, here's a couple things working in their favor. Aaron Rodgers, coming off of 10 days, he said weeks ago that what he really felt like he needed for his thumb was just 1 week. Now, obviously, he didn't take a week off, but he felt like he needed just 1 good week for the thumb to heal up. Well, he's had a week now with the mini bye Thursday all the way to the next Sunday. He has had that week. Maybe that means that the Packers will get him back under center a little bit more. And I know the narrative around shotgun versus center, the numbers don't bear out to be a huge difference. I think it might be more of an attitude thing, but nonetheless, maybe they can get under center more if his thumb is doing better. Maybe they can utilize the pony package more if they can get under center. That's what I'm saying. Now, Philadelphia is, record-wise, the best team in the NFL. The numbers, in terms of rushing, passing, all the things, right? Philadelphia is one of the top teams in the NFL. No doubt about it. Their strengths are not just strengths. They're like best in the NFL by a mile type strengths. Does Green Bay stand even a remote chance to go into Philadelphia on Sunday night and win this game? Do they have a chance? Well, sure they do. But it's the same as, to borrow a Mike McCarthy quote, it's the same as anything. They're going to have to play their brand of football. Or the brand of football that they should be playing. That's it. It's the only key. So, Packers, Eagles, Sunday night. I am excited to watch it. I will be back here on the channel Sunday night to give my instant reaction to the game. And here is hoping that the Packers find themselves marching to Philly and keep their season alive. It's the only prayer that they have. Thanks for checking out today's video. Hit like, share, subscribe, spread it around to nursing homes, whatever you gotta do. Just spread the word about the channel. Thanks for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Hopefully it was an extended weekend for you. Hopefully you got some time. And enjoy the game tomorrow night for Sunday Night Football. As always, go Pack Go.